Well, Andy, the dust has settled on our relegation. We're in WSL2, but you've been quite busy in the off-season so far.
Yeah, it's almost the busiest time, if you like, because you're right. Obviously after the season we've had, it's key now. Really looking forward to what we're going to do for the future, and I'm really infused by the meetings that I've had with the club. I've had probably maybe a dozen or more over the last couple of weeks, really pinning down what's Everton ladies going to look like for the future. And obviously that starts in earnest now, in the sense of getting plans in place for not only next season in WSL2, but what does it look like, with our ultimate aim of getting back into WSL1, and then obviously really competing in WSL1. So obviously we've got those ambitions and targets, and as I say, I've been really infused by those meetings I've had with the club.
Relegation doesn't mean that the club aren't going to back you.
No, absolutely. If anything, I think it's only going to, add to what the club maybe have done in the past. And the club have always been great supporters of the ladies team. But I think, from their point of view, they're like, well, what can we really do to help us get back to, what we feel is, a position where this club deserves to be, and that's, competing at the top level. And, we've always done that. And I think, as I say, I take a great deal of heart in those conversations, and, the plans that are already starting to shape for the future. And, very much now looking forward to, really pinning down the detail on those.
Supporters are understandably worried about who's coming, who's going, but we've got a lot of players under contract already.
Yeah, 70% of the squad are still contracted. So again, that leaves me in a good feeling of security, in the sense of knowing, a lot of players are still very committed to Everton, want to be at Everton, which is the key bit. And we've got obviously a small percentage out of contract, and now that I've been able to pin down the plans for the club going forward, I'm then able to start making those decisions on which players are going to be part of our future plans, and those players who unfortunately aren't. So some of those decisions are always going to be tough, of course, but I'll always make a decision what I feel is best for Everton and best for us. Maybe short term it may look like a decision that people will think, well, where are we going in terms of direction? But from my point of view, I've got to always have a long-term look at things. And I've always speak about highly of our young players we've got, and maybe WSL2 gives us that opportunity to really give them that opportunity to grow, and then obviously become those WSL1 stars, if you like, of the future.
One of those players that you've managed to tie down is Dan Turner.
Yeah, I'm delighted, in terms of signings. Dan, in terms of her progress, I would say probably alongside Nikita last year was our outstanding player, and her development has been quite rapid in the last 12 months. It's the first time she's played at, WSL level. Previous to that, she'd spent a long time in reserve team and development squad football, but she's come through, and she's almost like a real good beacon for any of our young players now. That sometimes it doesn't happen when you're 17 or 18. It can take maybe till you get to 20, 21 before you really truly find your feet as a player. And she's still only young, and she's gone on now and is a regular within the under 23s internationally. And reports coming back from those camps are that we've got a fantastic talent, and certainly someone who I now consider a very key player for Everton, and that's being rewarded for Danielle, and the extension of her contract.
Are you looking to bring players in as well?
Yeah, that's key, because obviously we will lose players in terms of along the way, but it's key that we obviously replace those players and keep building what we do. And those players who will come in, and there will be signings, those players that come in will fit our model of how we want an Everton player to look like. The young, ambitious, some maybe with a bit more experience as well to help those young players. But generally I think people know what Everton stand for, and and as I say, I think WSL2 really gives us that opportunity to give those players a big chance, and and they're going to be big players for Everton in the future.
Are you looking at home or abroad as well?
There's a mixture. We'll always look at what's the best option, the right option. We've had a young girl, Laura Merrin, come in, and she's trialling with us at the moment. She's trialling with our development squad in the off season for the first team. And so we'll always look at players. And at this stage, you know, if that turns out to be someone who'll go into our first team, then great. Or if it's someone who's, you know, not ready for the first team, then equally we'll always look at each player's development cycle individually. So we'll keep looking for the best players, and as I say, they've got to be the right fit for Everton. You know, not just a playing point of view, but from a, you know, a personal point of view as well. So we'll always keep doing that. And I think the general opinion of Everton is that as a club, young players in this country know that if they come to us, they get chances, and I think that's what young players want. And certainly, you know, we've always attracted the young English players because, again, it's something that we've always excelled at is developing those players. So I think we're, albeit a WSL2 club at the moment, we'll have a WSL1 mindset about the way we work. And as I say, I've got no doubts we'll attract some really good young talent to the club and continue to build on what we've got.
As you say, we already have some very exciting young talent. I know in the off-season you've been working very closely with the development squad. Have you been quite impressed with what you've seen there? Yeah,
you know, I said to the girls, you know, in a ruthless kind of way, they should be almost rubbing their hands at the situation in the sense if, you know, that's kind of the sharp edge of things. For them, they should look at it and go, well, maybe this will open up a few doors a bit quicker for me. The situation, obviously, from the first team. So, you know, again, from their mindset, they've really got to push hard, and that's why, you know, I've been on the training pitch with them, I've been at the games with them, and, you know, I've been involved in a lot of their work alongside Lee and Nicola, the coaches, because I think it's important that those girls see there is a route way to our first team. And you know, it's quite clear what I've said to them is the best ones will come and join us for training come January the 1st. And, you know, there's already 3 or 4 of them we've spoken to and said, you know, that's going to be you. And if that needs more players or they can't cope with that and we have to bring other players in, we'll do that. But I know we've got a real good talent there. And of course, our sense of excellence is just, as everyone knows, is our lifeblood. And I watch our under-11s on a regular basis, and they're like the best under-11s group we've had at the club, and so that excites me. You know, there's a number of good players in there, and all through the age groups, on the 13s, 15s, there's a lot of talent, and of course the under-17s are just growing strength by strength because of the season they had last year in the National Cup, getting to a final, and they're building on that again, and I'm sure they'll have similar ambitions this year.
So, of course, relegation is one step back, but it could allow us to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah, and that's certainly the approach I'll be taking in terms of my mindset, and you know, the players' mindset it was a situation we didn't want to be in. Of course, you never plan for that, but what you do now is, as you say, respond appropriately. And I think, you know, from my point of view, I can see loads of good things happening over the last couple of weeks, which, as I say, infuses me and gives me a great deal of belief that we're going to be a team that's going to compete well in WSL2 and then ultimately get back to where we think we belong.